This is the time, this is the place, and this is FC3 Monkey Business, your one-stop shop for everything geeky. And since anything is geeky, if you love it enough, then you never know what you're going to get. This is your host, I Am C. This week we will be talking about Kevin Smith's 1991 film Dogma. Kevin is our happy he is still with us file. And after that, stick around for Everyday Heroes, shout out, and our questions of the week. Our Everyday Hero shout out. I can read really well. I can. It's Palma. Okay, I'm going to stop.
Me speak badly?
Me speak good English.
Did you want to start
that's
over?
Impossible.
Did you want to start this over?
No, let's just
Are you sure?
People need to know that I'm still human. That's
Yes.
I am not this.
You're still a little coming down off of the
interview from last week's
high
episode?
from last time.
Yeah,
So,
that's a thing. It's
yes.
okay. It's all good. It's real.
So
yeah, Kevin Smith, and he's definitely tucked happily in our happy he's still with us file. Big shout out to Kevin, who had a massive heart attack a little while, just a couple weeks ago, and bounced back with his usual sense of great humor, and his podcasts and his video. Like Facebook Lives or Twitter Lives, whatever he's been doing, these videos that he's been doing. He's taking everything in such great stride.
And going back into, he's doing live shows again already.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
it's just full marks to Kevin for being a machine, and our best wishes to him on a speedy recovery. And please stay with us for a lot longer. We need you, dude. All right. In the studio with me is my usual band of surly human sidekicks. I've got the Dolly and Edwin show off to my left.
Woo.
Good to see you guys.
Hi.
hello.
And to my right are our legends and stalwarts, Billy and Tanya.
hello.
And on the phone, who I promise not to forget this time, is producer Sherry and associate producer Chris. Great to see you two, or at least hear you two.
Hello.
The snow is an evil thing. Well, we hope to get you guys back into town soon so we can have you in studio with us. How are you two holding up out there anyway?
Breaking us, it'd be great.
Yeah.
They allegedly have no more place to put the snow down there.
Oh, dear Lord. Is it that bad?
Yes.
Oh, wow.
Well, we do, but the dogs will have to stay on the sidewalk, and that's it.
Oh, dear.
Now, isn't there more snow headed? Isn't there like another nor'easter?
There's another
coming?
nor'easter brewing right now?
Shush.
Ay.
I hope it totally bypasses everyone.
I'm sure the entire East Coast of the United States agrees with you.
Central New York. Come for the wings and stay because you can't find your car.
That's it. There it is right there. I mean, the last one, the local snowplows didn't even bother running. It was amazing. There was like 2 feet of snow on my street, and that usually does not happen. It was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. Okay, so let's get to sponsor shout-outs. We're going to do our usual row of them. And Dolly's going to do it. Ta-da! She's just like, what?
We have sponsors.
We have sponsor shout-outs.
Towards
They're
the bottom.
somewhere on
Right.
this page.
They're right there.
Here we go.
Follow
we got
the bouncing finger.
Selena's First Pricks Comics, The Great Escape Room, Wibbly Wobbly, Timey Wimey.
There you go.
They're awesome. I actually bought a fantastic teapot. It's a doll-like teapot.
From Wibbly Wobbly?
Yep, from Wibbly Wobbly, Timey Wimey, and
That's
it's
cool.
proudly displayed in my dining room right now.
Ed, do you know why Wibbly Wobbly is so cool?
Why are they so cool?
Because they're actually helping us bring in Caitlin Blackwood, the original young Amelia Pond from the 11th
girl
Doctor.
who waited.
The girl who waited.
Yes.
Who is the cousin of Karen Gillan, the Amy Pond, and Nebula from Guardians of the Galaxy.
That blew his mind when
that
I told
actually
him
blew my mind when she said, "That's Nebula." I was like, "What?"
No, it's
What?
not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She
Totally
actually,
different.
when they started making the first Guardians of the Galaxy, Karen Gillan shaved her head and then had a wig made of her own hair. So she was walking around with her own hair, but it was detachable. And then she revealed this at a comic book convention. She was doing a thing, and somebody asked, said, there was a rumor that you had shaved your head for the part, but you're still got... She goes, well, it is my hair. And then she pulls it off, but it's a wig. And everybody just flips out. They just flipped out. They're like, oh, my God. And the crowd's going bonkers, and she's having a right laugh over it. There was actually a running gag at the time. She was ready to film. Oh, as Dolly is abusing her microphone.
Technical
You're having
problem.
that was like the second time today.
Oh, I couldn't high five earlier.
Yeah. But Karen Gillan shaved her head for Guardians of the Galaxy, and Matt Smith shaved his head for Terminator Genesis.
Oh.
And so there they are in that final scene just before the 11th Doctor regenerates, where she comes down the stairway, and they have their little moment where she says, Raggedy Man, goodbye, and they reach out to each other's faces, and somebody makes the comment, wouldn't it be great if in an
They just
outtake
like
they
this?
just grabbed each other's wigs and ripped them off?
They did it.
I thought they did it during an outtake.
Oh,
apparently.
during an okay.
Yeah, they messed with each other's wigs. So that was I thought that would be a
would
lot funnier in my
explain why
head.
he was bald at one time.
Yep, he actually had shaved his head for the whole thing.
That's
So that was okay. That
So
didn't
that
work.
was wibbly wobbly timey wimey.
Yes.
Our sponsors.
I'm going to babble now. So Patreon, we haven't had a lot of going on Patreon at the moment, but we do have some subscribers there. That is a thing that happens. So go to patreon.com/FC3ROC. Please support Monkey Business and FC3 with your subscriptions and patronage. We would love to have you on board. And every person who subscribes will get a shout out. And obviously, through all of our mediums, if you ever ask us questions or make requests, we will definitely go out of our way to see what we can do to help you out with that. Apple 5-star reviews. Want to help others find the show? Leave a review on Apple Podcast. Every review will be thanked on the air, and any questions will be answered. We want this to be a conversation, so please send your questions. I did that really, really badly.
Wow, you're still reeling from last week's interview, aren't you?
I really am. So what we're going to do is we're going to do this. We're going to take a break, and when we come back, we're going to, as we sent it at the beginning when we came in, we're going to be doing a Not a Book Club, and we're going to be talking about Kevin Smith's 1991 film Dogma.
And a little comedy from Lachlan Patterson.
Awesome.
Oops, I mess this up every week. I hate myself.
That's all right. You can't do any worse than I already have. So I can vamp until you're ready.
Here, hold on one second.
I can hold on.
Hold on. What are we
music
holding on to?
playing, I had
I know.
things playing.
Hey, wait, that's me. Don't hold on to that.
Okay, here we go now.
Ooh.
Lachlan Patterson, like I said.
Yay.
Like video games. I tried sharing video games to girls. I realized they don't really make video games for women. And I figured out why, man. It's because if they made video games for girls, guys would have no frickin' clue how to play them. It's that simple. Like a guy's video game's easy, right, man? You go slay the dragon, chop off his head, and stab him in the face for 10,000 points, right? It's a great game. If that was a girl's video game, you got to go instead, just maybe talk to the dragon for 2 hours, right? Right, dude? And then you just press the share feelings button 132 times. And then you and the dragon can go level to level chasing rainbows and making snow angels. And you can play with your date all day. Hey, baby, how do I cry for the dragon? Is there a turbo cry button? I don't think the dragon understands. How do I buy the dragon more scented candles? God knows every dragon needs 50 of those in my bathroom while I'm trying to take a leak. This game sucks. I'll give you this, though, ladies. Like in a guy's video game, if you screw up, what happens, man? Game over. You dead. That sucks. But if they made a girl's video game, if you screwed up, man, the game would let you keep playing. What? Yeah. They'll let you go to the next level, and maybe let you go to the next level, and maybe let you go a couple more levels. But it never let you forget what you did wrong earlier, would it, man? No. Just remind you every level 50 times? What the hell? That happened 20 levels ago.
They hold a grudge.
How many times do I got to press the I'm sorry button, for God's sakes?
Seriously. I'd wear that one
you
out.
have to press it forever, okay? And you'll still never win, but that's not the point.
Oh, does it hit too close to home?
That hits a little too close to home, but it's funny nonetheless.
Yes.
All right. We had a misprint, and Dolly found it, but it was cool. In the actual introduction to the segment, it's corrected. So Dogma is a 1999, not one, 1999 American fantasy comedy film written and directed by Kevin Smith, who also stars along with Ben Affleck, Matt Damon, Linda Fiorentino, Alan Rickman, Salma Hayek, Chris Rock, Jason Lee, George Carlin, and Jason Mewes. The story revolves around two fallen angels who plan to employ an alleged loophole in Catholic dogma to return to heaven after being cast out by God millennia ago. But his existence is founded on the principle that God is infallible. Their success would prove God wrong and thus undo all creation. The last scion, played by Linda Fiorentino, and two prophets are sent by the seraphim Metatron to stop them. The film's irreverent treatment of Catholicism and the Catholic Church triggered considerable controversy even before its opening. The Catholic League denounced it as blasphemy. Organized protests delayed its release in many countries and led to at least 2 death threats against Smith. And, funny enough, he actually was found by a news crew protesting his own movie.
Yeah.
That is a great freaking story, and he tells it brilliantly.
Kevin Smith?
Kevin Smith. He just kind of bumbled into this protest, and nobody knew who he was. at the protest.
So, and the news organization went up to interview him. Just the reporter asked what his name was. He said Brian Johnson. And if you're a fan of Kevin Smith, you know that Brian Johnson is Kevin's best friend and one of the comic book men.
Yes.
Currently on AMC's TV show Comic Book Men.
And always makes a cameo in all of his movies.
And was standing right next to Kevin when he said that to the camera crew.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes. So thus proving the humor of Kevin Smith. It's great. I love this movie. I know Tanya's on the fence about it. But I always find this movie very interesting to me because it's definitely a very philosophical and real kind of, not so much a critique, but just an observation. It's a satire, but it's more of an observation. And it puts things out and puts them in the spotlight is what I've noticed. It takes some of the weird kind of church rules and some of their traditions and puts them out in the open and puts them in a context, and then says, you look at it and you're okay with this? This is all right by you? And then moving on. And
Kevin was a practicing Catholic. That's how some of the stuff in there is deeply rooted in actual the mythology of the Catholic Church, to the point where Chris Rock plays Rufus, the 13th apostle.
Right.
I read while doing some research, because religion is not anywhere near a strong point for me.
No.
But Rufus is mentioned in the Bible.
Is he really?
There is a Rufus in the Bible. I'll have to do a little Googling because I read that, but it's mentioned once, and you'll, to me, the fact that Rufus exists, and like the hockey playing triplets, the Stygian. I had to look up the Stygian triplets. Turns out Stygian, if I'm pronouncing it correct, Stygian, has to do with Hades or the River Styx, which I didn't know.
Rufus was the first century Christian whose father was compelled to help carry the cross on which Jesus Christ was crucified. According to Easton, he was probably the same Rufus mentioned in Romans 16, verse 13, whose mother as well as Paul's mother were among those Paul sent greetings in his epistle to the Romans. So,
well, all right there.
Yeah.
That's the teacher educating you.
Easton's Bible Dictionary in regards to Rufus.
Okay.
So see also Rufus of Thebes.
Rufus of Thebes.
Yes. He is numbered among the 70 disciples.
The 70?
70 disciples, not apostles.
Disciples. Oh, the disciple. Okay.
Became the disciples of Christ.
Like the first class?
And all the holy apostles.
Okay.
Yeah. He was a bishop of Thebes in Greece and is referenced in Romans 16:13. His feast day is April 8th.
Which is coming up, I think. Is it?
Yes.
As in terms
probably.
of the broadcast?
Close.
Yep.
Yes.
4 days away as of the drop date of this particular podcast. Gotcha. All right. So
we'll have a Rufus feast.
Happy Rufus feast. Happy Rufus Day. We'll have we'll do like one of those cardboard cutouts, and we'll do it of Chris Rock. Put him at the head of the table. Okay.
Yes.
And then we'll order pizza and be good to go. All right. So what is it about this movie that attracts our attention to it? I know for you and me, Billy, we love this movie. Sherry loves this movie. I'm pretty sure. Sherry, you're on the fan board of this one, right?
Oh, absolutely. Chris and I both.
Gotcha.
Absolutely.
What is it about this movie that makes us laugh so much? Is just
well, because it takes a serious subject, but and people disagree with me, but it's not treated lightly. I mean, despite the poop monster,
right,
and despite the constant cursing of Jason Mewes, and despite Selma Hayek very scantily clothed, it's taken seriously. Kevin Smith was raised Catholic, and it shows. He knows his stuff.
Yeah,
and he wrote it such.
And the references were very scholarly.
To the point where I'm looking at a picture now. I read this, and I'd never noticed it before, but throughout the movie, Ben Affleck and Matt Damon are wearing hoodies that sort of draped around their necks. Yeah,
and Alan Rickman.
So is Metatron, yes.
Yes, Metatron.
I never noticed that.
They're all wearing the same outfit in different colors.
Yeah.
The three angels are wearing
the same
halos.
outfit with just the different color. Yeah, different colors, like Sherry said. How about you, Dolly? Now, yesterday when we watched it together was not the first time you'd seen it, right?
It was the first time I've seen it since college.
Right.
So in like 10 years.
Okay.
And I mean, I enjoyed it. There were parts that I found were pretty hilarious, like when the excremental comes out and while he's walking, he goes, "Not birthed into existence, but pooped into existence."
Yeah.
I die laughing, and I text Edwin because he's the first thing that pops in my head.
When it comes to poop, that's great.
Great.
That's such a loving. You have such a loving relationship, you two.
Oh, yeah. The love is real.
Yeah, the love is just poop filled.
Oh, you're my poop
that
monster.
whole scene makes me laugh because when Silent Bob has this idea, and he's just standing there at the bar watching this thing coming closer to him, and he's just got that look on his face. It's just like, yeah, I got this. This is all good. He's just very, very calm. Yep, I'm not worried. And just Kevin Smith is one of the master mimes.
That's the awesome
of our generation.
That's the awesome part of Silent Bob.
I think
that's
that's just
cool.
amazing.
You could tell how really influenced he was by John Belushi. If you're old enough to remember him
The
from
physical
Saturday Night
expressions.
Live,
Yeah.
very Belushi-esque.
That's a great way to put it. I mean, they also have the very same physique.
Yeah.
You know, and they approach comedy in a very similar fashion, very quietly sometimes.
Yeah, you can see what he's thinking even when he's not speaking.
There's so many videos out there with Kevin Smith talking about this movie. I think that's one of the great things about Kevin Smith being so accessible, is that he's willing to tell you stories about anything. And I remember him talking about getting Alan Rickman in the first place, and how his mind was just completely blown that Alan Rickman would lower himself to work on a Kevin Smith picture. And so he just, one of the first trivia pieces that Sherry has on my prep sheet here is from Jason Mewes. Had the entire script memorized before rehearsals, and when asked why, he said it was because he didn't want to anger Alan Rickman, and because Kevin Smith took him aside before rehearsals began and said he needed to be on his best behavior and bring his A game to the set, which Mewes did. And it was interesting to see, Mewes actually showing some range, especially towards the end. He was showing some range, and there are some obviously really typical Jay moments.
It's really hard to quote Jay.
Yes, you
can't.
You can't. Not unless you're ready to hit that special button on Spreaker.
Well, in going back to that, in regards to Alan Rickman, in that it said he read the script and came back with only 2 questions. Would they stay faithful to the script, and are the wings real or CGI? Mm-hmm. That's what he wanted to know in regards to playing Metatron.
The wings were physical in the up-close scenes.
That's the trivia question.
Yeah. And that was, I think that was great too, because it was a Kevin Smith movie with special effects.
Yeah.
And Kevin Smith gave himself a puppeteer credit.
Oh, did he?
For the movie, because he was one of the people that moved the wings.
Okay.
Now here's
there it is.
Here's a little piece of trivia that I haven't seen anywhere else. But did any of you grow up watching Mr. Rogers on PBS?
Yes.
You remember the Land of Make Believe?
Yes.
Vaguely. The trolley goes in, and there's King Friday and Henrietta Pussycat, Daniel Tiger, who my cat's named after. One of the only other humans in the Land of Make Believe was Lady Aberline.
Yes.
Lady Aberline is the nun in the very first scene of the movie.
Is she really?
That Matt Damon's talking to.
Is that really?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a...
Besides Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, she's done about 4 things, and 3 of them are Kevin Smith movies.
Wow.
Nice.
That is awesome.
Betty Aberlin. Yep, right there
Speaking
it is.
of that scene, I love that scene because that was actually my favorite part of Alice in Wonderland 2 was the Carpenter and the Walrus.
Yeah.
That was always my favorite part, and I love that poem.
Where
and the
Matt
fact
Damon
he breaks
is
it down
He's waxing,
like that. And,
waxing philosophical about it.
oh my God! And then gets the nun to reevaluate her life. That was hilarious. I was like, okay, this is gonna be good.
Damon and Affleck are so good in this.
Yeah.
They are. I'll tell you.
That was the one thing that we did mention. That it was,
We talked about this, how it was early Affleck and Damon. And early Affleck is better than current Affleck, in my opinion. It's almost like he's lost a step somewhere along the line.
Somewhere along, he still makes good movies.
Yes.
Argo
was good.
Yeah.
But in Argo, he barely spoke, so I think to me that was what made it a good one for him.
You got that.
Like his acting's chops are choppy.
But it definitely, when the two of them were going back and forth, bantering back and forth, or joking around, or towards the end, towards the climax, when they're in that parking garage and Bartleby's having his epiphany, and Loki's like, wait, hold up,
wait. What do you mean?
It's genuine, it's real. These guys are into those moments, they're into those parts, and they're not just reciting lines; they're bringing that character out. And I don't see that.
That's so funny that you say that.
Why is that?
So funny. We watched the movie last night.
Yep.
And I said to Chris last night, I think this is one of his absolute best performances, that particular scene.
Yeah. You see the range of emotion. You see the anger, but the almost like it's just the shift in his attitude and how he looks at things. And you got Loki, who was the barn
angel
burner.
Of death.
Yeah, he was the angel of death. And then all of a sudden, Bartleby becomes. You see that attitude. He's adopting that attitude in that parking garage scene. And Loki's the one who's throttling back, going, "Whoa, whoa, whoa! Time out, easy, killer!" And so you see that
his
shift.
response to that was wonderful.
What's that?
Yeah.
Say that again, Chris.
Loki's response to that.
Right. And then putting the 2 + 2 together and likening Bartleby's rant to the Morning Star, to Lucifer, and
exactly,
and knowing that was it. That was enough for Loki. He's like, it's time to start checking out of this plan. Something's gone wrong
I
here.
like the one-on-one on the train, though,
Yeah.
because that's
Yeah,
when
the
you
train
kind of
is
see the where the light clicks in Affleck
Yeah.
and Bartleby.
When Bethany is drunk and she's admitting the
What
plan.
she has
Yeah.
to do. Yeah.
Well, when he's not even that, when she's talking about her ex-husband and how he left her, and
Oh, right,
he's
right.
likening his feelings to her feelings, but his are towards God, and you see that kind of light bulb click in his head where, like, yeah, she's right. This isn't right. I don't want to be treated like that. And then
And you
the
could
very
actually
next
see
scene,
that in Affleck's face.
yeah, I'm telling you, that was one of the better performances from Affleck I've seen. Like, I really think it went all downhill after
The
Giggly.
whole movie.
Yeah.
See, that's my thing about this movie is while it is funny, that's not why I watch it. I watch it because it's thought-provoking. I watch it because there's these amazing performances from all these different people, and it's just a really interesting film in that way. I think it's funny is not the reason why I watch it.
There are definitely moments where I'm just laughing my butt off because it's a comedy. You have those moments of just pure comedy. The interaction, usually it's between Jay and Rufus, is what made me laugh the most.
Oh no, when Jay's like, "Oh, holy, I get it."
Yeah, holy bartender.
bartender.
He's always late to the party.
I love that. That reminds me of my friend. I have a friend, Heather. She does that to me all the time.
But yeah, I mean, it's like Sherry said. There's that level of, he's not just bringing up references to the church and church doctrine and Bible passages and things like that. He's not just doing it to be satirical. He does it, and then there's a commentary involved. And it's not just, he doesn't just slam it and go, well, see, this is why you're all goofy. He brings it up, and then there's a commentary about it. There's an observation. There's a moment where they're like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. And it's like, oh, okay, this is not your normal Kevin Smith movie. Okay.
Because you can tell,
It may
too.
be about Catholicism, but it's talking about all organized religions. And you really have to look past the comedy to see what the movie is. And I've met a lot of people who, I don't like it, it's just stupid. Well, you're not taking the time to actually understand the movie.
Because to make those dumb jokes, you had to believe in what was actually happening in that film to begin with. I mean, he made that movie based on a belief that he has, and obviously millions of people have, and a lot of people took it very wrongly.
Well, yeah.
Well, I think
Go ahead.
I think one of the issues is that there, other than the excremental, there is nothing in there that isn't actually biblically related. When Rufus talks about Christ's brothers and sisters, that's in the Bible.
Yep.
There are 4 brothers listed in the Bible, and sisters is plural, so there were at least 2. And that is something that's been argued by Christian scholars for years.
I think the Metatron, Alan Rickman as the voice of God,
Yeah.
I think was a perfect choice because after his speech, I guess his monologue with Bethany, was her name right? When she's saying like, "I don't want this. I don't want to be related to God and stuff," and he's like sitting there and he's talking to her and he's talking her down, and I'm like, okay, if that's the voice of God, I think I would probably do whatever he told me to. Because
Alan Rickman has this way of delivering things.
Yeah.
Well, his whole admission of having to talk to Jesus Christ about it.
Yeah.
To imagine having to deliver that to a 12-year-old boy, and that whole piece where he's talking about how he had to tell Jesus about his nature.
Yeah.
And there was almost that regret and that sadness, and it's Alan Rickman, for God's sake. He could read the ingredients off of a Cheerios box and be hooked. So
yeah, but he really made you feel it, and it's like, oh my God, yeah, that is true. That is a huge burden.
Like that.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I was like, yep. If he came and told me I was the savior and I had to go on some quest, I'd be okay.
But
let's go.
The interesting thing, though, is that along with very sort of serious religious commentary and things you had to think about, and the dumb jokes on the other end, it's also a road trip buddy movie. It is. It's Bob Hope and Bing Crosby on the road to Morocco.
It's Bob Hope and Bing Crosby if they went on a bender.
Yeah. As
But
they're trying to get from Wisconsin to New Jersey,
where the top shelf honeys were.
Or to make it more topical than, or still not as much, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah. Those aren't pillows.
I love that movie.
It is a great movie. Can I just? I have to make this comment. Because when this movie came out, you watched as the devout Catholics came out en masse to protest this movie, and I couldn't count how many times I heard the anecdote where basically they were like, "Well, we haven't seen it." Okay, then why are you protesting it? There's one, and it's in the trivia thing here. William Donahue of the Catholic League lambasted the film and publicly protested against it for months without actually seeing the film. After which his office called View Askew offices and somebody said, hey, Dr. Donahue requests a special screening of Dogma so that he can speak about it intelligently. Kevin Smith's response was, what has he been doing for the past 6 months? I think that the church they need movies like this. They need stories like this told because they need to be challenged and they need to get off their damn high horse and open their ears and eyes and experience these stories before opening their mouths. Because there's so much enlightenment to be had through satire. There's so much enlightenment to be had to have that mirror held up to you and be shown what you're looking at more in depth. Look at everything and then start talking about it. There's so many knee-jerk reactions out there. And I think this – so where I'm going with this point is this movie needed to be made. And I'm very glad that Kevin Smith was the one that did it, not Spielberg.
Yay.
That was my mic drop moment.
And the mic drops.
And almost my Coke.
It had the cap on. Anyway,
I know, but...
Go ahead, Chris.
But she works at an abortion clinic.
Yeah.
Best part.
With what you're
Not
just
me.
saying, that is very particular to what's going on in government today.
Oh, yeah. In modern society. I mean, we have these movies that and TV shows. We've talked about Black Mirror, for instance. These things that are putting a mirror up to what we are living with. And we can do better as a people. We really can. We can be a little bit more open. Instead of having a belief, we can have a good idea. I think that was another little, like a callback between Rufus and Bethany.
Yep.
Don't have a belief. They hate it when you have a belief. It's, they wanted it to be a good idea.
Harder to change.
It's harder to change a belief than it is an idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
So do we want to talk about the story itself, how it unfolds, or do we want to do what we usually do, just encourage people to want to watch this movie by talking about bits and pieces?
Before that, I just want to make one comment.
Go.
If you enjoyed that aspect of this film, where it talks intelligently about religion, but still it has a humorous take and switches things up a little bit, if you enjoyed that part of this particular movie, one of my favorite books in the entire world is a book called Lamb. I'm trying to remember the full name, but it's something about, the Gospel According to Biff, Jesus Christ's childhood best friend.
Okay.
And it was written by Christopher Moore.
Okay.
And he's very funny, but it's the story of Jesus Christ's life from his friend Biff's point of view, and it talks a lot about those 18 years that Rufus mentions that aren't in the Bible.
Gotcha. As a matter of fact, it's kind of timing is everything. I was just reading an article that a friend of mine from school sent me just before we watched Dogma, where some BBC scholars were doing an extensive research, and they're going to be doing a documentary, or they may have already released it, where they discovered that Jesus was actually a Buddhist monk from Tibet.
I think that's on Netflix.
Is that on Netflix or something like that? So they were trying to chronicle what happened during those 18 years. He was actually had gone from the Middle East to Tibet to learn and study, and then came back to bring back what he had learned. And there continues the theory on, and this is where it gets really interesting, that he actually did not get crucified. That was a put on to cover his escape. So he went back east, where he taught and lived his life out until he was about 80, and he's supposed to be like buried in Sri Lanka or something like that.
So now he's Jim Morrison.
Jim Morrison, yeah. He's hanging out with Morrison and Jimi Hendrix and Elvis.
I'll say Elvis.
Elvis is the thing.
The Muse loved Elvis.
I'm actually in talks with Christopher Moore for him to come on for an interview.
Oh,
We'll have to
really?
remember to mention Lamb to him.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's cool. That'd be cool. I'm looking forward to that. Let me know if that one works out. Obviously, since I'll be doing the interview.
Really?
Yeah. I'm looking at the list of trivia, and I'm seeing just how many people were actually cast at one point or another or attached to the idea of playing God for this movie. They were all women, obviously, so Kevin Smith's idea was always to have it be a her at the end of the movie. I see Emma Thompson. I see Holly Hunter, which would explain some of the piano references throughout the course of the movie. And then Alanis Morissette, who was originally meant to play Bethany, but then was unable to because of her 1998-1999 world tour.
Actually, Linda Fiorentino and Kevin Smith, I guess, didn't get along.
No, they didn't. There was a lot of...
There was some mention of that in the DVD commentary.
Oh, yeah?
Also.
Okay.
So a lot of different people have been mentioned as possibly playing Bethany at different points that he wound up playing Bethany.
Gillian Anderson was one.
Gillian Anderson, Janine Garofalo, who was Bethany's best friend at the
in the abortion clinic, yeah.
Joey Lauren Adams from Chasing Amy was
Amy.
also considered.
I just met her up in Niagara Falls about a year ago.
Really?
She was really cool. She was at the Comic-Con up in Niagara Falls. And her and my wife Susan wound up becoming friends, sort of. You know how Susan does with everybody. Yeah.
Susan's everybody's friend because she's that freaking awesome.
Yeah.
So. The demon guy cracked me up. I knew he was evil before he showed his horns.
Azrael?
Yes.
Jason Lee.
Yeah.
Jason Lee. Yeah.
Massive unibrow.
Oh, yeah.
That was an evil unibrow.
I'm wondering if some of that was actually even like colored in, because I don't remember him having quite the unibrow.
I don't know.
Especially in My Name is Earl.
Angry. It was a very angry unibrow.
It's probably natural, but they take it out in other movies.
Mm-hmm. Here's another great little piece of trivia. Matt Damon's character is Loki, named after the same god of Norse mythology as Loki from the Marvel Cinematic Universe.
And then he plays Loki.
Coincidentally, 18 years later, Damon would play an actor playing Loki in a play in Thor Ragnarok. So that's what I said.
That was hilarious.
I thought that was a great little throwback.
That's a fun callback. Love callbacks.
Yeah.
Loki mentions how he doesn't believe in God because of Alice Through the Looking Glass, which was the final film of Alan Rickman before he passed away in early 2016.
Yeah, that's...
I still can't believe that he's gone. That's the thing.
Oh, I know.
There was like two or three British celebrities, actors and musicians, who they were fine one minute and the next they're gone. It was like Bowie, for instance. Nobody really, because they're so classy, the British. They keep things so close to the vest. They don't need to live the Kardashian lifestyle where everything's out in the open. They keep things to themselves. Like, I didn't know Elizabeth Sladen, who played Sarah Jane Smith in Doctor Who, that she had even been sick until she passed away.
Alan Rickman wasn't sick, though.
Yeah, he had been battling cancer for quite some time. He just kept it low on the radar.
Well, Kevin Smith was a personal friend, and he didn't even know.
Wow. That's amazing. That is amazing. Huh.
He mentioned that in one of his talks about him, that he's like he wasn't even sick.
Huh. I'll have to look into that.
Now, Dogma, I thought, was an interesting choice. Was it Sherry you that decided Dogma was going to be the Not a Book Club for today?
It was a group decision between us and Chris.
Okay, because I'm obviously a huge Kevin Smith fan, and as I was I was trying to figure out where Dogma ranks in my favorite Kevin Smith movies, because it's hilarious. It's a great movie, but because I'm I'm not against religion. I'm just not religious at all.
That's kind of where I am at this point in my life.
And I don't know much about religion, so the movie was always like a homework assignment to me sometimes to get some of the jokes, to know what was going on, even though I love it. And Clerks is obviously his breakthrough movie, and considered his classic. Chasing Amy to me is his best movie.
Okay.
Clerks 2 to me is his funniest movie.
Yeah, because I think he's got his stride at that point. Clerks, he was still working things out, but for Clerks 2, he definitely knew where he was going with those characters.
Clerks 2 is just laugh out loud funny and has a scene towards the end that makes me weep. It's so touching. It's part of this whole, we're all a bunch of wimps on here. Because, we get touched so easily by things.
Oh, we're touched all right.
And I think someday we should talk about Mallrats, just because there's a lot of pop culture references, including a pretty decent-sized part for Stan Lee.
Should we do a monkey business basically on the View Askew universe?
We could.
And just start rolling through the whole list of them. At that point, kind of give everybody their due and talk about how they interlink to each other.
Oh,
that would be fun because I haven't watched a couple of those in a while.
Yeah, see, there you go.
It was always my go-to movie. When Sherry and I first got together, I brought her Clerks and Penn and Teller Get Killed when she was sick.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that's an odd
and
movie.
I have been a Penn and Teller fan for ever.
Yeah,
ever.
They're great.
And chances are I will be cosplaying Penn Jillette.
Okay.
Come FC3, and I've got some tricks up my sleeve for that.
Nice.
But just one movie outside of the Askew-niverse that is, I think, fantastic, and it's gotten mixed reviews, is Red State. The very dark side of religion.
Oh, yeah. That movie's really, really out there.
And I highly recommend Red State, but actually not for Tanya. She doesn't like things too dark sometimes, do you, Tanya?
No, it's not that. It's just, the jury's just definitely still out on this.
No, I just still remember your take on Black Mirror.
Oh, yeah. Well, I have to be in the right mindset for it.
All right, I can get you there. I'll start yelling at you, and you'll get angry with me, and I'll be like in trouble. Mr. McGee, don't make me angry. You won't like me when I'm angry. That's another thing. He put that quote in there.
Oh yeah.
Right towards the end.
That's right.
At the because any Kevin Smith movie is going to be resplendent with pop culture references.
It's always Star Wars, always Jaws.
Yes.
Especially the part when they're in the diner.
Yeah.
When Jay leans over to Silent Bob, he goes, I feel like I'm Han Solo and you're Chewie, and
we're in that,
and she's Ben Kenobi, and we're in that messed up diner.
There it is.
Or should I say messed up bar?
Messed up bar. Yeah. It's not quite as colorful as he put it, but
I enjoyed the Shakespeare reference.
And there's a couple of them.
I need you three to shuffle her loose the mortal coil.
Right.
Love that.
Yep. That's from Hamlet.
Mm-hmm.
And one thing I found funny was Kevin Smith threw Batman from a train.
Yeah.
That's right.
Is that the sequel to Sylvester Stallone's?
Didn't really have the reference, but
Throw
it
Mama
does
from
now.
the train.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't even think of that. Well, that's you wouldn't put it 2 + 2 together on that one right there. But yeah, he threw Loki, and then he busts out with the Indiana Jones line after that. No ticket.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that part.
It's what I should have done.
I just cracked up watching it again last night.
I should have had a piece of paper next to me and just started making a tally mark every time there was a pop culture reference made to another movie. I should have done that. I did not do that. I feel bad now. I'm going to have to watch Dogma again.
Do you have enough paper for that?
I'm sure if I break out a brand new steno pad, I should be in good shape. All right. George Carlin agreed to take the role of Cardinal Glick, but didn't want to remove his wedding band. He had recently lost his wife, so he wore a Band-Aid to hide it. This was actually unnecessary, as Catholic clergy wear wedding bands to signify their quote-unquote marriage to the church. And it's funny that George Carlin, who was an outspoken atheist, plays a cardinal.
That was like
awesome.
when I saw him playing it, I'm like, wow, it's like truly too much like straight laced for him in regards to just. He's the one that talks about a cat running into a glass door and goes behind the couch and goes
meow.
Yes,
Meow.
Yes. So I'm just like, what?
He was the best one to introduce Buddy Christ. Come on.
Yeah, seriously, that was the only person. Well, Kevin Smith has a stable of actors that he goes to. Those go-to guys. Jason Mewes is going to be in everything he does.
Oh, yeah.
Damon and Affleck are going to be throughout the most of it. George Carlin is a go-to guy. Carrie Fisher was a go-to.
Jason Lee,
Grant Hicks.
I can't think of his name now.
I can't think of the actor's name.
Brian O'Halloran.
Brian O'Halloran is in just about
Dante
everything.
in Clerks. And
Exactly.
Actually, they're all related.
Are they all related?
Dante Hicks, Grant Hicks. I think Gil Hicks is in Mallrats. He was the contestant on the game show in Mallrats.
Oh, okay. And then there's the guy who played Randall in Clerks.
Yes, he was the gun shop owner.
The gun shop
and
owner.
Dogma. Yep.
So there's always going to be familiar
Anderson.
faces in all Kevin Smith movies.
And you can visit Buddy Elf.
Buddy Christ.
Buddy Christ.
He's at the Secret Stash, isn't he, down in Jersey?
Yep.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I'm going there in June, so I will take
Please
my
get
picture
pictures.
with Buddy Christ.
That would be awesome. Please get pictures of that.
My cousin Melanie has a Buddy Christ on her dashboard.
Nice.
Actually, is there one over in Weeze's Jesus's?
No.
No?
It's one of the ones he doesn't have.
I thought he had one.
He did.
What's
He's got
the
so many-
one with the red thing
That's
on?
just one makeup. It has
this
is
is-
basically drag queen
Yeah,
Jesus.
that's drag queen
Oh, no,
Jesus.
there is one.
Is there?
Back there.
Oh, he's got one.
yeah.
He
There
does
is
have
a-
one.
I thought I got him one, actually.
There it is.
Okay.
There
I
he is.
was
We
thinking
have a
it was
Buddy
this
Christ here in the studio. That is
Yeah.
phenomenal.
I was there with you, Billy. I thought I saw it too.
I usually
He's
sit in front
hidden
of
in the
it.
back.
He's sitting in the back by the geisha girl over there
I'm not tall enough.
and Pope Francis.
It's like,
So
There's the thing, I'm not tall enough to see it. That's
you want to
what it
visit
was.
with?
But it's something you could picture the actual Catholic Church doing.
I couldn't, to be honest.
To try and get young people more involved in the church.
Uh-huh.
I
don't see it.
wouldn't
No,
see,
not the actual Buddy Christ,
Right.
but I mean
No, but I
trying
wouldn't
to
see them doing
Catholicism
the
Wow
Catholicism
campaign?
wouldn't do,
The
no.
WOW campaign,
Yeah.
yeah.
See, having been a Catholic in the 70s and 80s and remembering how controversial it was that priests started going by their first names and bringing guitars into the church and how that totally freaked out so many people, I really couldn't see this happening.
Yeah.
No.
And being in a Catholic church where the father was one of those fire and brimstone, preach from the pulpit type father, it is just like when I got married, when we had our rehearsal the night before, he goes, "We're starting at 2:00 with or without the bride. I don't really care because we have church at 4:00.
Right.
So he goes, I need everyone out at 3:15. So if the bride's not here, I'm still starting. So
No pressure. No pressure.
That was the just the whole thing that the church that we were at. So it's like definitely like you were afraid that lightning was going to strike you if you did something wrong in regards to the upbringing.
Well, Bethany makes point of that when she's talking about it. When she was younger, you're in church and you could, that power and that awe-inspiring, and the wonder of it all. But then as you get older, it was like great time to balance my checkbook.
Yeah, I'm just like right now. I'm like I might have been raised Catholic, but I'm truly not a practicing Catholic
I'm
right
not
now,
practicing anything
and
anymore.
I'm just like with the seasonal Lent and things like that. I'm just like I haven't been able to find a church that really speaks to me right now in regards to that. So I mean, we always joke with Sean and Deanna and whatever because we're all Catholics, and we're like. Sean goes in for a wedding or a funeral or whatever, and we're like, "Did you get struck by lightning?" He goes, "Nope, the church still stood."
The
type
church is
thing.
still standing.
But
Yeah.
that
The
was
group I sat with at Ray's mom's funeral.
Yeah. Chris?
Oh, I'm sorry. Nothing. I was just that was an aside to Sherry.
Oh, I see.
But
We
the
hear
group
everything.
I recently went to a funeral of one of my best friends. His mom was like a second mother to me. He's the one who taught me how to cook Italian food.
Nice.
Me being the little Irish white boy. And the group I sat with, if anybody there was going to be struck by lightning, it was that whole group. And there were like 10 of us.
Yeah, I was raised Catholic too.
yeah,
And
it's just,
my problem is here. Like when I was in Florida, I had a really good church that I went to that was Catholic, and it wasn't all fire and brimstone, but it really depended on the mass you went to. Because if I went to the Spanish mass, I would have a different father versus the English mass. I went to an English mass, and the first time I went, it was everything was fire and brimstone, and you're going to go to hell for like literally breathing. And then when I went to the Spanish Mass, and it was a different pastor, and it was completely different tone. And that's what I was used to.
When I was a kid, we used to attend Mass with a priest whose name was Father Looney.
Father Looney?
He used to say Looney by name, not by nature, but it was a little bit of both. He told priest jokes during Mass. It was great. He was awesome.
It's the pastor, the father I see here every once in a while in Clinton is like that. He's wonderful. I'm not Catholic, wasn't raised Catholic, but occasionally the people we support at work, I take to Mass. So it's been very interesting for me for the past 20 plus years now to try to be able to follow a Mass.
Yeah.
Or
you mean
Catholic aerobics?
That's okay.
That's what
Get out of my
refer-
head, Tanya. That was where I was going with that.
I mean, it's the stand, sit, kneel, stand, sit, kneel.
Just watch the old woman in the front pew.
That kind of works for me.
Oh, she's moonwalking. She's moonwalking.
Anyway.
Yeah.
It all changed recently.
What?
Did it change?
It all changed. They changed the entire liturgy.
A lot of it's not, you don't kneel anymore, you sit, and there's just...
They changed the wording.
Yeah, there's something something in I was somewhere, and just some of the phrasing has changed.
Yeah.
Now see the
Makes me
thing,
crazy.
for the longest time when I was going to church, it was the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost. That was back in like the 70s.
Now is it the Father, the Son, and Simon over there in the corner?
No, it's Father, Son, and the Holy Spirit.
We're back there again?
That's what it was.
Okay.
But it was Holy Ghost when back in the 70s, early 80s.
The Father, the Son, and John, Paul, George, and Ringo. I wonder, we've gotten into this whole philosophical discussion about our views on Catholicism. Is this what this movie has? Is this why we find this movie fun? Is this why we find this movie so interesting? Is that we have? Well, okay. Why we have this?
It is
thought-provoking. Okay, so I misspoke, and that's fine.
Yeah.
I do that a lot.
But it is fun.
Yeah,
it is a fun movie.
But is this why we find it so
challenge the
thought-provoking?
tenets
It
of
challenges
religion.
that which we've already started challenging on an internal basis.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I started challenging the whole religious tenets when I went to Nazareth, because part of the coursework at Nazareth, you had to take a religion class. It didn't matter which one you took. So I took Religions of the West, which got into Christianity, Judaism, and Islam. And the professor I had, he was great. I can't remember his name, but he'd come into class and he's like, okay, you guys have your blinders on? Are you ready to read the Bible with your blinders on? Because the book of Genesis is written after several other books that have been written in the Bible, but yet that's the creation story.
Yeah.
So it's like you read this one, it says in the beginning, but this one was written 10, 11, 20 plus years after other books of the Bible.
So you're saying that the concept of the prequel was not George Lucas's?
No.
Okay.
So I mean that's the thing. It's like so you have to take like the Bible with a grain of salt because it's not written linearly.
Linearly.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Maybe it was written by a Time Lord.
Yeah, that's pretty much or
Quentin Tarantino.
Yeah.
There you go.
Oh, my
It's a
word.
matter of
Could you imagine the Bible is Pulp Fiction? Oh,
the person's
Lordy.
perspective at the time.
So now we have this road movie.
Just till dawn.
Yeah. So we have this on the road movie with religious characters and the prophets,
Renegade angels.
and renegade angels, and commentary on what we see in modern society. So I guess I just wonder do we identify that with that because we've had our way of looking at the world kind of changed and morphed, and we don't have that strong. Here's my question, and this is hypothetical because I don't think there's anybody here who's a devout Catholic in our panel. And if you are, then good on you.
Family's Pentecostal, so
You see, okay.
Our family is not.
Yeah, but do you think somebody who is strong in their faith, goes to church, tries to follow the commandments, goes, sends their kid to Catholic school, stuff like that, and turns their noses up on what we would now look as today as socially liberal policy, governmental policy? Do you think that they would actually enjoy this movie if they actually just watched it?
I don't believe so.
Mm-hmm.
I think they would be so staunch in their beliefs and their traditions and their morals and values that this would be an affront to their sensibilities.
example.
I disagree.
example, it's like
I'll get you a moment to share. Go ahead.
When the Da Vinci Code came out, it said that Jesus Christ wasn't, a divine being there, but he was actually human, and then he had actually a family line.
Yeah.
When that movie came out, not just Catholic Church, but other religions branches also, were like
that were invested in that story.
Oh, they were like pretty much trying to boycott the movie. I was like, no, that's blasphemy. That's not true. But pretty much, if you think about it, Dogma is pretty much on the same play area as that one. It's like if they see it now,
the current political climate's almost made it now where people are just stuck where they want to be and don't want to listen to the other side on either side.
I think they're so stuck where they want to be that they're not even willing to listen.
Yeah.
Now, Sherry, you were going to say something. I heard you. Did you say you disagree with Tanya?
Yes.
Okay, go ahead. Tell me a little more.
My mother is a very, very staunch Catholic, but is one of the most liberal people you're ever going to meet, and she likes this movie.
Okay. My rebuttal to that is that's it's not so much a rebuttal, but my commentary on that is, isn't that how it's supposed to be? Because it's even here in Weeze's studio, Jesus is a liberal. If you look at the New Testament, you look at the things that he said, things that he done, the way that his life was documented, his story was documented. He is a very social liberal person. So to have this Catholic Church develop over 2,000 years to be this completely, I don't have a better way of saying it other than stick in the mud, conservative, shake the finger at things. It needs a movie like this to kind of put that mirror up, as I've said before, and point and say, can you think this one through maybe?
Well, that's why the new Pope is good, though.
Right.
Pope Francis is he's pretty cool. He is badass.
So that's why I don't want to bang the whole Catholic Church because I like the new Pope.
in looking at them, this was 1999. Had this tried to come out in 1979, it wouldn't have flown.
Oh, no.
No. So I think in the time, yes, that allowed people to open up their eyes and see whatever. But if you looked at somebody that was 60 years old in 1979 that was a staunch Catholic conservative type views, you wouldn't be able to sway them.
And think nowadays the Catholic Church has some other problems where the poop monster may be going through my
right.
Wow, that's all good.
That's all they're going for, sure.
Right. So now today in 2018 there's a whole different type of social aspect to the church that people are talking about.
Could this movie be made and released now?
Yes.
I don't see why not.
Yeah.
I think so, except for, and this has nothing to do with the content of the movie. Nowadays, movies that aren't blockbusters have trouble getting made, like mainstream movies that'll play. They movies that cost like between $10 and $20 or $30 million just don't get made.
I think the title that's above it, where it says Dogma, looking at it, says "Get Touched by an Angel," might be a little.
That line.
Little, how do I phrase it? Taboo for
nowadays they'd be a little more sensitive to that. I think.
Other type.
But he was playing off of
there was the TV
series Touched by an Angel. Yeah. So I think that was Kevin Smith's tongue-in-cheek, satire of that. But you're right. I think that tagline would not exist.
Everything.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. As if we take, go ahead. Was somebody going to say something?
I think Chris was.
Go ahead.
I think it might actually have a hard time getting made today.
Why would you say that?
I think it would be an indie film.
Look at the political climate and how much is being controlled by religious aspects. Even though there's supposed to be a separation of church and state, it has become not that.
No, yeah, we don't have we do not in this current society that we do not have a separation of church and state anymore.
Well, my whole phrase is, as long as there's tests in school, there will always be God.
Because kids will be praying
that they'll pass the exam. So there will not be separation of church and state in regards to
said
exams.
By the teacher. So yes, I believe in that. I believe in the teacher. I was going to go somewhere with this.
Sorry. I derailed you.
No, that's okay. That's not hard anymore. Don't worry about that right now. I'm scattered.
No, I think he's definitely has a point. I think if it was going to get remade now, it would probably be more of an independent indie film rather than one of the major movie houses.
Right.
Just because of the political climate. And if someone wants to, it would be shown at the Cannes Film Festival.
Yeah.
It would be this would be something that would show up at the Little.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is where I saw this at the Little.
Did you really?
Originally, yeah. I saw Clerks at the Little when it first came
Wow.
So it's a definite. It wouldn't necessarily be mainstream.
It would be in Tinseltown.
Yes.
IMAX Tinseltown.
Oh God.
Now, as
That would be sick.
an on the road buddy movie, let's take the philosophy out of it. As an on the road buddy movie, this is freaking funny
It's
as hell.
very funny. Jason Mewes, even though he was terribly hooked on heroin at the time, gives a stellar performance.
Yeah.
He's hilarious in it.
You can say he's just typecast, he's just playing himself, but it takes a certain level of timing to be able to pull that off.
I can't play myself.
I know. No, I couldn't. It would be too hard. It'd be too challenging to do that. But especially at the end when
I don't think I'd have a problem playing myself. That's kind of what I'm doing in D&D.
You're true. Okay. But also think about it this way. What if you're handed scripted lines and you're told you have to say it this way,
present them.
and you, in the back of your head you're like, I wouldn't say this, but you have to present that as if you would as yourself.
What do I do with my hands?
Well,
Yeah.
You bang the table on the train.
I have enough self-awareness. I know how I sound. And there's a lot of times I sound like an idiot, and I know it. So
Same here.
giving me lines, saying, here, say this, yeah, not an issue.
Yeah. But then his I think Jason at the end is awesome, especially when God kisses Jay on the cheek, and he's got that look of just that distant, aloof, kind of like he's lost in his own thoughts kind of look. This just you got to give the kid credit for it.
Types they blended the personality types. They're trying to screw her the whole time.
Yeah, he was.
Or he is. It's not even they.
In the big final scene, he's dropping his pants. She's like, "What the hell are you doing?" She goes, "We got 5 minutes left to live." He said, "You're gonna have sex with me."
But
That
his mind never strayed from that, really.
No. Right.
But Silent Bob's mind evolved throughout the story, despite him not really talking.
To be helpful and to be
and then you have Rufus, who's this like, no, Jesus is black, and trying to like enlighten everyone.
and someone else. Jesus is a woman.
No, not Jesus. God
is a woman.
Yeah, and it was just
He's not really anything.
Exactly, and you bring all these personalities together, and I think that's what made the movie fun, is those personalities blending.
And I think that's, and I've said this on several occasions, I think sometimes for me, the interaction between the characters and the personalities is sometimes as important, and in some cases even more important than the story, because there's always going to be the same stories. Who am I? What is this? Bad guy, good guy, etc. There's a lot of stories that are going to be consistent throughout drama in any of its shapes and forms. So for me, it's okay, this is going to be another thing where it's this and this and this and this and this happens. But it's how the people interact with each other, how the characters look at the situation, how they adapt to it, and how they interact with each other. That's the selling point for me. Like Firefly, it was a standard kind of Western and outer space drama. Okay, there were so many standard tropes in Firefly, but it's how Mal talked to Jane, and Jane talked to Simon, and Simon and River dealt with each other. So it's people. People are always going to be as important, if not more important, than the story for me.
The side characters, I think, to me, made the movie more than like Bethany, who's the main character. Like to me, she was kind of drab.
Yeah.
Without Jay and Silent Bob and Rufus, like she would have bored me. Like her as like a person, she didn't have that charisma to herself. She was very blasé.
Yeah, I saw that a lot.
But then you have them who are like bringing your attention to everything that's going on. I think if it wasn't for the side characters in this movie, I don't think I would have enjoyed it as much.
When she breaks away from the camp, go ahead, Chris.
The whole thing. They all get growth. Even Bethany, she's pushed into it. And accepts it, and by the end of the movie, Bartleby, same thing. He says thank you at the end.
Yeah,
he knew
what was coming.
What was going on at that point.
I think for me it was when Bethany. I was not feeling that character because I thought Linda Fiorentino really felt like I really felt she was phoning it in for the first half of the movie. She was just kind of going along, and she didn't have that same kind of. She was very, as Dolly was saying, very blasé. But when she broke away from the camp, when she'd had enough, when she was just overwhelmed, and she falls into that pond, and it's the baptism scene in essence to me. I saw it, she's screaming and yelling, and she's just having this catharsis where she's just getting it all out. And then there's Metatron, standing on the water and talks her kind of off the ledge. And then from there, you see her perking up just a little bit. Like the second half of the movie, she kind of starts getting more into it a little bit. I don't know, but that's my observation.
Well, her faith was challenged.
Yeah,
her
exactly.
faith, okay.
That's the thing.
Well, her lack of faith was challenged.
That was the
at
thing
that
that she
point.
didn't believe or things like that. So.
That's what made her blasé and just kind of, existing, not living.
Mm-hmm.
And to tell you the God's honest truth, I never even noticed the baptism.
I didn't either.
That was
Just her as an
just said
actor.
that, and I went,
She could have
oh
been
my
replaced.
God, I can't believe I missed that.
I saw her in the water, and it did, Chris making the connection, like, oh, okay.
It's more than just Linda Fiorentino in a white a wet white shirt. I mean, seriously, which is I'll go with it, but there's more to that scene than just wet t-shirt contest.
But Dolly's right in that of all the characters in the movie, she's the lead character, and she's the one I remember least. If you say Dogma to me, I think of Affleck and Damon, Silent Bob and Jay, Chris Rock,
Cardinal Glick.
Yeah, even Selma Hayek before I think of
Muse,
Bethany.
Yep. It's amazing that the main character is the least thought about character in the whole movie.
I don't even recognize her name.
Linda Fiorentino?
Yeah.
Yeah. She still acts, I think. I still see her pop up once in a while.
Men in Black.
She was in Men in Black, yeah. She was in the first one.
Oh, yeah, I forgot that was her.
She's been in quite a few movies, but she's always she's like a
forgettable.
would-be star. Yeah, she's always that would-be star that failed to ignite. It's that's the impression I've always gotten. Like she has chops. I've seen her use them, but it's always like she's not quite there. And it's not anybody's fault but her own.
She's the Kristen Stewart of the 90s.
Oh, there you go. You know what? Yeah,
That's a good
Billy. That's it.
That's a
you
good
nailed that
example
one
right there.
You know what?
You absolutely nailed that one.
Looking at her filmography, I have seen Men in Black and Dogma.
And that's it.
Yeah, she's got 31 actress credits.
Has she been on anything recently?
No, the last thing was like 2009.
I think she's finally retired.
It was Once More with Feeling.
I have never even heard of that.
I'm clicking it.
We're not going to do a podcast on Linda Fiorentino.
No, so
Okay.
It's just,
5 degrees of Linda Fiorentino.
you know I can't play that game.
none of us would be able to play that one.
Yeah, I might win.
Well, it's because we keep forgetting that she exists in that movie.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. So
So on a scale of 1 to 10, this is not this is not taking home the Oscar for Best Picture in my opinion. Not a 10, but a good movie. It was fun. It was funny, but also thought provoking and philosophical.
Like I said, because of my lack of religion and it's sort of homework, even though I love Kevin Smith to me. 7.
7.
7.
Tanya?
She was in a movie called Unforgettable. Yeah, she is forgettable.
And yet she is so forgettable.
I'm sorry.
I don't know.
That's terrible. And I'm sure she's a wonderful person too.
Would I watch it again? Probably not. So
Okay.
I would have to go 3.
You're gonna say 3?
It's just not something that really. I'm like, okay, I watched it, but
So we have a 7 and a 3, and I'm going to give it a 7 right along with Billy. Dolly, what would you say? 1 to 10?
I'm giving it like a 6.
You're gonna have a 6. Edwin,
I'd give it a 10.
you gonna give it a
loves
10?
it.
See,
I love it.
And there are a lot of things to love. I can respect that opinion because I know where you're coming from. Sherry, how about you? On a scale of 1 to 10, where would you go with Dogma?
An 8.
An 8. And Christopher?
8 or 9.
8 or 9.
there.
Well, pick
Yeah,
one.
because I really enjoy movies that are thought-provoking and have growth, and I like stupid humor, too.
See, to me, sometimes it's the stupid humor that drags it down just a little bit. Like
Exactly.
I keep going back to Poop Monster, but could have done without it.
I
He
could've
had a
done
good
without
story
that
on
part,
how
too.
the excremental came to be.
Yeah.
I had it in Chris's
They
8.5.
explained
Yeah.
him.
All right,
But
so
I didn't necessarily have to see it.
So in regards to the statistical data on this, you cannot actually use the mean as the actual measure of central tendency for this. You'd have to use the median because the 3 is the outlier.
okay,
So that
there's math being said to
There
me.
is math being said
Where
to you.
are you going with this? Because I'm doing a quick rough draft
So
calculation.
the
here.
average is about a 6. However, with my 3, that pulls it down. So
And the
if
10?
you-
Does the
and
10
the
affect it?
10, Well, tent or whatever. So if you went to the median and put these in order.
Well, she's doing math. Make sure there's a...
Make it a 9.
You're gonna, okay, so you're a 9.
Okay, so that got correct.
Sherry's an 8.
Yeah, and then...
We're all over the place with this
So
movie.
actually, it would be ranking more at a 7.
All right, so as a
The
panel...
the average of 6 would bring it down.
So as a panel, we're rating this movie as a 7. As a holistic group altogether.
And
by using the median.
Let's see what IMDb has it rated as.
They had a 7.3.
Okay, so we're right on.
Oh, look at us go. All right. See,
right on the money.
We nailed that one. What did Rotten Tomatoes put it at?
I'm going to look that up.
Looking that up now?
Yep.
Okay.
Tomatoes, Dogma.
I can't imagine Tanya's reaction if she sees Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back.
See, that's a hell of a movie because you really have to check your brain at the door and have a couple of beers when you start watching that one.
That's what I was telling her during Dogma. I'm like,
Dogma, Rotten Tomatoes.
Favorite View Universe
is 6.2.
Okay.
Like I told Tanya during the screen when we were watching it, I'm like, you need to either have some drinks or be like slightly inebriated to watch this.
Sherry,
and fully appreciate it.
All right, everybody. Sherry, what were you saying? Because everybody was talking over you.
I said that Jay and Silent Bob Strikes Back is my least favorite View Universe.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, because it's just, he was just going out of his way to be silly, to be repulsively silly.
Other than a couple cameos, I really will never watch that movie again.
There's no need to. There really isn't.
I've only seen it once.
Actually, he's
probably 50 times.
rebooting it. Jane Silent Bob reboot is being made right now.
I can't
that's
wait
awesome.
for that movie.
That should be good.
There's
probably going to be heart attack references in it.
What I just love about it is just how Kevin Smith pretty much is making fun of,
everything.
Making fun of Hollywood per se, how they do things, and that's what I love about it because he just nails everybody.
Yeah, including himself, and I think that's part of his charm is that he does self-depreciating humor very well. He'll go after himself as equally as he goes after anybody else, and I think that's a class act in the making there because that's a person who shows no fear.
Yeah,
he's like, all right, I'm going to go ahead and bash everybody, and that includes me.
Yeah,
so
no one's off limits.
All right.
I think we need to.
He has no delusions of grandeur.
No delusions of adequacy. We're good?
We're going to put this puppy to bed?
We'll put this puppy to bed. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we got a couple of quick announcements, and then we're going to send you on your way for the rest of the week.
Okay, and we'll take a break with comedian Rick Reynolds.
Yay.
One of my favorite things is discussing religion, and especially Christianity, because it's fascinating. I've read the Bible and other, religious books. And here's an interesting thing in the Bible. Jesus appears as a baby, of course, and then the next time we see him, he's delivering sermons. He's an adult. I think the Bible avoids Jesus' childhood because he was a problem child. I mean, he must have been a tad spoiled. You would have been too. I mean, imagine you're like a 10-year-old boy. You show up at the father-son picnic with God. You're going to win every event you enter. Nobody can eat more pie than God. It's a foregone conclusion. Now, I knew probably the most religious person in the world, my grandmother Welter, my mom's mom. Nobody believes this is true. Absolutely true. Every day she woke up, she was convinced Jesus was coming that day. Felt like the doorbell would ring. Could be Jesus. Like he's going to ring. And you'd walk by late at night, kind of creak on the floorboard. She'd wake up. Jesus? Is Ricky going to the bathroom?
And thank you for hanging with us. This is Monkey Business, and that was our chat about Dogma. And it's some nice topical humor thrown in at the end. Thank you, Billy, for being awesome at finding stuff like that. Couple things to do. We'll wrap this one up for the day. We do have some events coming up. April 4th at 7 p.m. at Knox, in the event room at the Village Gate Mall. Is the FC3 board game night. It's no competition, no prize, no nothing. It's just basically a bunch of us hanging out, playing board games.
And that's their normal board game night.
And that's a normal board game night at
Knox.
Knox. We're jumping out. Okay, and so we're just hanging out. So the FC3 crew will be there. Come join us and spend some time playing some good old-fashioned board games with us. And then
when this drops,
what's that?
It'll be tonight.
Oh, it'll be tonight?
It'll be tonight.
So
all right.
Come tonight.
So we'll see you tonight at Knox. And then coming up in, it looks like about a week and a half, couple of weeks, is April 14th and 15th is TorahCon. the big anime and cosplay convention at the RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology. We will be tabling there. So come visit us at Doricon, and we'll be looking forward to seeing you there. We do have some Everyday Hero action. This week's Everyday Hero shout-out comes from Maria Giesler. She would like to nominate her husband, Staff Sergeant David Giesler. He joined the Army directly after and because of 9/11 and is soon to be stationed in Korea. He is her hero because he is doing what he loves to benefit other people. So thank you, David, for your service and for being our hero. And remember, as always, not all heroes wear capes.
No capes.
No capes. We'll wrap this one up with our usual question of the week. Sherry is firing off. What fictional magic system do you find the most interesting and why?
Define fictional magic system.
I would say like D&D spellcasting or Magic the Card Game or something like that, Sherry.
Any book, movie,
everything
movie. Has its own version of a magical system.
There you go. So like Harry Potter and fake Latin. You know?
Lumos and
Nox. Oculus Reparum.
Parcel puns.
You know?
Ridiculous.
That's it. That's it. So, Tanya, what do you think? What's your favorite magical system and that you find most interesting and why?
Ooh, that is a challenging question because.
I'm going to go, while Tanya thinks.
I am thinking.
The TV show Bewitched. I love the whole family element of Bewitched.
Okay.
Whether it's Samantha and Endora and Uncle Arthur. And so I'm going to take it literally and say the Bewitched world.
There you go.
I think jumping on to that, I think I'm going to go the supernatural world.
Okay.
Between
it's very much more ritual.
The ritualistic and things like that. And things like that. So I'm going to have to go supernatural.
I always tried to twitch my nose.
You always try to.
Can you wiggle it? No.
How about you, Sherry? What's yours?
Remember a couple of episodes ago when we interviewed Jim C. Hines?
Yes.
His book, Libromancer.
Okay.
Where it was the whole magic system was being able to reach into a book and take something out of the text and have it become physically there.
Gotcha.
So, like, if you needed a drink, you could reach into a book of cocktail recipes and pull out whatever drink you wanted. Or if you were being, in one point in the book, he's being chased, and he
Spoilers!
he has certain books he carries with him, and he has a book. He has a Sam Spade novel that he carries with him that he reaches in and grabs a gun.
Oh, geez, that's cool.
Stuff like that. I just found that so fascinating.
Mm-hmm. How about you, Edwin?
I would have to say, going into my video game roots would be Final Fantasy VII, where they literally infuse magic into crystals. They're called materia.
Yeah,
and that's my
system. Your thing. That's your jam.
My thing right there.
Christopher?
Okay, my favorite comes from Mercedes Lackey in the Valdemar books.
Okay.
It is personal to each person.
Mm-hmm.
And it's from inside them, not from an outside source. It's not like where you're looking at magic where you're gathering mana to be able to cast something. It is part of them. It is them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, I almost went to Elizabeth Moon's Deeds of Paxtonarian as the system of magic because it's like kind of faith-based.
Okay. All right. Dolly?
I kind of have I'm going to go with, I have a tie in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
The first one that popped up in my head was the movie The Page Master.
Okay.
With Macaulay Culkin. Love that movie. He goes into the books and has to find his way out of the books.
Mm-hmm.
And just the magic between jumping from story to story. I love that. And then, like, Once Upon a Time, the television series.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The magical system there, I love that. I'm just the fact that
throw another one on.
It's just, it's not like love between, family or a man and a woman. It's, true love can be between a mother and a child and stuff like that. And I loved that aspect of that show.
Gotcha. How about you said you had another one,
just
Tanya?
For fun, Fairly Odd Parents with Timmy Turner and
Cosmo
and Wanda and Poof. I want a Fairly Godparent.
See, I'm a big fan of the D&D system because the spells are very well written out and you can understand their power levels and whatnot, and there's easy access to it. But for this particular exercise, I like the whimsical nature of the Harry Potter universe. I like the way that it's very adaptable. There's a lot that can be covered. And having the magic wand and the magic words and stuff like that kind of feels very traditional to me. But then there's that whimsical quality that it's not Latin, it's fake Latin. It sounds like Latin, but then there's it just has that rhythm to it.
Oh, Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, the next one that's coming out.
Yep.
So excited.
That one's going to be good.
Where you meet young Dumbledore, played by Jude Law.
Jude Law actually looks... This is what I was saying about Ben Affleck earlier, that Ben Affleck has gotten older. To me, he's gotten less attractive, but Jude Law looks more attractive as an older
He's
man.
aging well.
Yes.
Jude Law's aging well as opposed to Ben Affleck, who is aging fat. But anyway.
At least in Justice League.
Jude Law was creepy to me when he was younger.
So there's lots to talk about, and there will always be another podcast, and that's going to happen. So we're going to wrap up today. And
thank you for listening.
Thank you for listening. And this has been Your Monkey Business, a product of the Mighty Monkey Corporation, purveyors and producers of the Flower City Comic-Con, coming at you on June 9th and 10th, 2018 at the Rochester Riverside Convention Center. Like us on Facebook, love us on Facebook, follow us on Twitter, Patreon, and all sorts of other places. And we will see you all next week. Have a great one.